Hello everyone and welcome back to avchesslab. This game was played by Fischer with the white pieces and Larsen with the black pieces. It took place in Denmark in the year 1958. In this game a Dragon Sicilian was played and Fischer used to say that against such an opening you just sack, and mate. So let's jump into the game and see how Fischer was able to slay the dragon. We have e4, c5, knight to f3, d6, d4, c takes on d4, knight takes on d4, knight to f6, knight c3, g6, bishop e3, and here Larsen went for bishop to g7. Let's take a move back. There's a nasty little trick here that still many players fall for as they try to win the bishop pair by going knight to g4. And this move loses to bishop b5 check. And now the idea is that whatever you block on d7 with either the knight or the bishop, then that piece is going to be pinned and we're going to be able to play queen takes on g4 winning the knight. And if instead of all of that you decide to block on c6 with the knight, then we can just capture, and after pawn captures, bishop captures, check, and we're going to take the rook, again winning material. A nice little trick worth keeping in the back for the future. So again, bishop g7 in the game, and f3 by Fischer, and this is the standard approach to get the Yugoslav attack set up for white. A very dangerous and aggressive system, and the move f3 also prevents this knight jump to g4, which is now possible. Black here castles, and queen to d2. White is ready to castle soon, and also prepares to exchange bishops with bishop to h6. Here knight c6 is played, and bishop to c4 by Fischer. The other move here is to go for queenside castling, but black then gets the move d5 with a good breakthrough in the center. I quite like the approach by Fischer by playing bishop to c4, and this is a favorite of mine since it also keeps the f7 pawn pinned to the king, and as you will see in this game, it is a very useful move in a lot of situations. Knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, and bishop e6 by Larsen. Larsen is attempting to trade pieces, which will make his defensive task much simpler. Bishop b3 above Fischer, not trading. Notice that if we go for bishop takes on e6, after pawn takes on f6, and here black has reinforced his center, has good control of the center square, and has the half-open f-file for the rook to maneuver in. So after bishop to b3, we have queen to a5, with the threat now of bishop takes on b3, since the a pawn can no longer take because of queen takes, so you will be forced to take with the c pawn. Here Fischer laughs at all the threats and just castles queenside, and Larsen goes for b5. If instead of b5, if you had gone for bishop takes on b3, after c takes on b3, white would just go king to b1, king to a1, and be completely safe. It is true that the king and pawn endgame is lost for white in this pawn configuration, but black gets mated long before we get there. After b5, we have king to b1 by Fischer, b4 attacking the knight on c3 with the pawn, knight to d5, bishop takes on d5, bishop takes on d5, and rook 8 to c8. Unbelievable as it seems, this is the losing move. Here, Fischer plays bishop back to b3, and Larsen will never get a second chance to snap off the bishop. And according to Fischer, he had this position down to a science. He wanted to pry open the h-file, sack, and mate. Is it that simple? Let's see. Rook to c7, h4, and here it comes. The queen comes to b5. Black also has his own plan with a5, a4, but white's attack is much faster. h5 by Fischer, and rook fc8 by Larsen. If you had gone for g takes h5 here, then g4, h takes on g4, f takes on g4, knight captures on e4, queen to h2 with the mate threat on h7, the knight protects the h7 square by retreating to g5, the bishop captures on g7, king takes, rook d5, now both the queen and the knight are hit by the rook. The rook comes to c5 to protect, but queen to h6, king g8, rook takes on g5, rook takes, and queen takes h7 is checkmate. So Larsen, of course, goes for this, rook f to c8. And after h takes g6, now black is forced to take with the h-pawn. As we mentioned earlier, there's a pin down this diagonal with the bishop. So h takes on g6. Fischer has accomplished the first part of his scientific plan, which was to open the h file. So now this whole h file is open. Here g4, a5, black is coming, but Fischer strikes with g5, knight to h5, and rook takes on h5. Part 2 of the experiment was to sack, so Fischer sacrifices the exchange. G takes on g5, and again g6, taking advantage of the fact that the pawn cannot take because of the pin by the bishop. e5 here. I'm not going to discuss too much of the analysis in this game. All the lines lose for black. All I'm going to say is that now the bishop on g7 has no life whatsoever. Pawn captures on f7 with check. The king comes to f8, bishop to e3, and d5. Desperation, but there's nothing else in the position. E takes on d5, and not bishop takes on d5. If bishop takes, then rook takes on c2, and suddenly there's counterplay for black. So instead, e takes on d5, the rook captures on f7, removing that very nasty pawn in front of the king. Fischer goes for d6. It's only 2 moves away from promotion, getting another queen. The bishop is also hitting the rook on f7. So here, rook f6 by Larsen, bishop to g5 by Fischer. This bishop from g5 is controlling the queen in square on d8. The queen comes to d7. Fischer takes on f6, bishop takes on f6, d7, attacking the rook, getting ready to promote in some cases. Rook to d8, blocking the pawn, and here Fischer plays queen to d6 check. Black here resigns, but this move is a mistake by Fischer. He had a better and faster way to get to checkmate. Can you find it? Pause the video if you need to. In this position, the quickest way to checkmate is to go for queen to h6 check, king to e7, queen h7, king back to f8, and queen f7 checkmate. I guess Fischer was right. You open, you sack, and you mate. Very simple. This was a great example of how to attack the fianchetto bishop. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if you have not done so yet, subscribe to the channel, and as always, stay safe, have a great day, and show respect to your opponent. See you next time.